Good afternoon, everybody. Today is Sunday, October 15th, 2017, and this is Intrinsic Motivation from a Homie's Perspective. This is Hamza.
And I'm David.
And today we are joined by Jeff Jacobs. And Jeff Jacobs is another good friend of both of ours and known him for many years here in the Atlanta area in the spiritual community. So really excited to have him on. Going to talk a little bit about oneness, blessings, and what else he has in his spiritual toolbox. So with that, welcome to the podcast, Jeff.
Hey, thanks, guys. This is going to be fun.
Yeah,
absolutely. Thanks. It's good that we were able to coordinate calendars to get you on. So we've interviewed a lot of women. We needed more of that male energy here on our podcast.
Hey, man, that's the way it is in this field, right? You go to a group and there's like 12 women and 2 guys.
Yeah, 7-1 or 6-1 ratio, whatever.
And I think on some level we love those ratios as guys. I mean, it works wonderfully for us.
Yeah.
But from another side, in my opinion, I can understand why statistically it seems that women live longer than men. And some of it could be the reason that they explore many things that men do not. That's one way of looking at it. And maybe we are getting the inside track to what they're working on so we can be better mates or better friends or all the above.
Yeah.
Well, sure, yeah. That and, the energy is changing now, so the divine feminine is taking over. So, that's that energy waking up and taking the lead now. And personally, I love being in the energy of, that feminine energy. It's a lot more comfortable than the more aggressive male energy.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that because there doesn't seem to be that level of unknown or known competition that goes on when you're in a mostly male environment.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that, really. That went right over my head.
Maybe it was supposed to. I mean, I think it's fine. I think we love those events, but we love having a male on our podcast.
Okay, cool. We'll just roll with that.
Yes, let's roll with that. So let's give us a little bit about your background. I've personally known you since I think 2009, 2010. That was at the Horizon Center with Joanne Wilson, and I know you were a part of the community before that. So if you could talk a little bit about your history and what brings you to your current state of awareness.
Okay. I'm trying to see how far back I want to go here. Well, I guess I'll just go back to the beginning and I'll try to keep it short. It's when I don't need to go that far back. When I got to Atlanta, I started doing Tai Chi and Qigong and writing and painting. And I did that because a few months before I got here, I was out in Santa Monica and I had a dream. And in the dream, I had 2 book titles flashed to me right before I woke up. And I wrote them down, and they happened to be titles. One was a title about Tai Chi, and another one was a book title for the I Ching. And I had just been reading a book called Synchronicity, The Tao of Synchronicity, I think, and she had talked about the I Ching in there. And the actual book title that she spoke about was the one that flashed in my mind. So I recognized that book title. And I went down to the store and I got it and I started playing with the I Ching. And if you don't know what the I Ching is, it's the ancient Chinese text called the Oracle. And there's 64 trigrams in there, it's actually a binary code, which is 2 sets of trigrams. A trigram, you either get like a yin or a yang, like an open or a closed. Anyway, and you can consult the I Ching to answer questions. It was like an oracle. They would answer questions about, Are we going to have good crops? What do we need to do? All these different things. So I had the copy from the I Ching, and then the other book title was a book on Tai Chi, but I didn't know this until about 6 months later when I got here, and I found it again in the introduction to the Dancing Wu Li Masters, which I had read years ago, so I realized that was a book on Tai Chi. So I started doing Tai Chi, started reading the I Ching, and I started becoming aware that I had not been alone. My whole life I've been given these things, given these little symbols. There have been something with me kind of guiding me. When I was 7, I had a dream. I wasn't a dream, I was in an airplane. I looked out of the airplane, and in a cloud, I saw an image. It was clear as day. It was like looking at a TV of like a hut with a door closing. There was like either a broom or a mop and a bucket standing by it. And every time I looked back at it, the door was closing a little bit more. And at this time, I had pretty much called BS on the church and my religion, which was Lutheran, and anything else like that, because it just wasn't vibing with me. And I found out Santa Claus wasn't real, and I thought, they're just lying to me. Everybody's just lying to me about everything, and I called BS on it. And then I had that vision from the airplane, and so I knew there was something going on, and I just didn't want that door to close. And so, I just kept walking through life, and strange little things would happen. I remember one time at Easter, we were painting eggs. I was in grade school, and we were painting eggs, and I got so angry that we were painting eggs because there was something inside me that made me, I was so mad because everything Jesus went through, and here we are just painting eggs. I got so mad. I left the house, and I walked out in a blizzard, and I just started walking. My dad had to come get me in the car, and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I don't know. I just got really angry." And so just little things like that. I'm spouting. But anyway, so I realized that there was something going on. I was being guided. I was being taken care of. And so when I got here, I started studying Aikido and Tai Chi, and I had picked up an Aquarius magazine, and it used to be a pizza place up on Crabapple in 92. It's not there anymore. And I was reading my horoscope like I used to do, and I saw an article about Reiki, and so I was guided to go check out Reiki. So I started going to Inner Quest Church, which is in Milton. And so there I studied Reiki and some energy healing, and I was on their energy healing team for about 5 years. We'd have people come in second Saturday of every month and have a room with like 4 or 5 tables on it, and people would come in and get Reiki from 2 or 3 people at a time. And so I did that for like 5 years, and I just became ravenous for everything metaphysical. Anything I could get my hands on, I just started just shoving it all in until I just became so saturated I couldn't process anymore. And I left there in 2009, and that's when I started going to Horizon and learning more stuff and just kind of hanging out with new people and just kind of seeing all this stuff from a new perspective. Continuing to do Reiki, continuing to do Tai Chi. I had to stop doing Aikido because I don't know exactly why. I had stopped for a while I was doing some healing work, and I went back, and when I got on the mat, my lower back just tied up in a knot. And I went to a cafe after working out one time, and I just asked Spirit, I said, "What do you want me to do? You want me to stop doing Aikido?" And my back just completely released. Mm-hmm. So I never got back on the mat again. And I think that was just because it was very dualistic, preparing yourself for battle, preparing yourself to fight. It just wasn't, even though it was awesome and I had a lot of fun with it, there was still some energy there that I was supposed to let go of. So I had to let go of Aikido, but I kept studying Tai Chi. And then in 2012, when I was at Horizon, and we had the Rainbow Earth group there, we'd meet once a month and do meditations and things and help Mother Earth. and humanity and the consciousness of humanity sort of shift. And somebody, I think it was Debbie Loshbaugh, came in and was talking about the Oneness blessings, and she was going to a Oneness Awakening course. And I had heard about this a couple years ago from Mark Berkey, but at the time when he first started telling me about it, I couldn't process anymore. I mean, I just had so much stuff going on, I couldn't process anymore. But in 2012, I was ready. So I signed up for the class, and I knew that it was right because at the same time I got a free copy of Yogananda's Autobiography of a Yogi, and I started reading that, and I could just feel him with me. And so I went to the OAC, which they're having one in November. We can talk about that later, and which is a 2-day course in which you sort of do a lot of healing with relationships. You kind of go back, you do a process called the 4 baskets, and you go back and deal with everything that you have absorbed subconsciously from the time of conception up to about like 6 hours after birth. And you go through there, and the whole time through this weekend, your divine is with you. Whatever that is for you, you know, it's a very personal thing. So it's not necessarily Shriyama Bhagwan, who are the ones who started Oneness University and started putting the Diksha out to the world. It's anybody. It's Jesus, it's Buddha, it's the light, it's whatever it is for you, because, you know, God is very personal. So the whole time your divine is walking you through this course over the weekend, just clearing stuff. I mean, I cried like a baby the whole weekend. I saw at one point you chant, I am existence, consciousness, bliss for 49 minutes. And while I was doing this, all of a sudden I became aware of everything around me was chanting with me. My grandparents showed up and started chanting, I'm existence, consciousness, bliss. The trees outside started chanting, I'm existence, consciousness, bliss. The birds, the stars, everything. It's like the entire universe was just chanting with me, I am existence, consciousness, bliss. And it was just amazing. And then you get the Mukti Diksha, and then you can give the Oneness blessing. And so it was amazing. The energy of the Oneness blessing was like nothing else I'd ever experienced before. And it's designed to bring about awakening and move us into God realization, you know, oneness. And it actually creates a neurobiological shift in the brain. It sort of silences the parietal lobe and awakens the frontal lobe and moves us into a space where we can actually perceive life differently, where we perceive life in a unified way instead of a separate way, because, you know, we're in that separation consciousness. We're in that duality where we feel separate from each other and from everything. And so this actually creates a shift so you begin to perceive life in a different way. So I've been doing that a lot. I have a Diksha circle at my house on Wednesdays. People can come. We give hands-on blessings for about an hour. And I just been still doing Tai Chi, and the Tai Chi keeps changing because it's really amazing when you really cultivate this relationship with your divine aspect, whatever that is for you, if it's your higher self or Jesus or Buddha or Shriyama Bhagwan or Yogananda, whatever it is, and you start bringing that into your life, and it's not like conceptual. It starts becoming really real, and you start seeing things around you that are happening, and you see the hand of your divine just handing you things and taking care of you. Like the other day, I was in Walmart. I was buying some stuff, and I was standing in the checkout line checking out, and this guy came up to the checker, and he started asking her where the lighters were. And he started asking about the big, long camping lighters. And earlier that day, I had recognized that the one I had been using to light candles and incense was about to die. And I knew that was the universe reminding me to get a lighter. So I had to go. I went back into the store and got a lighter, and the next day, the one I was using died. It's just little things like that. You just start to recognize all of this divine support in your life, and it becomes amazing. Let's see, and I don't know, I guess I should just stop there. Have I been talking for an hour already?
Well, I have to say I'm kind of a little disturbed by something you said when you first started talking. Did you say that Santa Claus isn't real?
No, I found out he is real. He actually lives right up the street.
Oh, okay.
He comes to the Diksha Circle every once in a while.
All right. Well, that's so much better, because I'm like, wait. That can't
There's kids that listen to this show, man. Come on.
So, Jeff, let me ask you. You said you were in Santa Monica, and you had a dream, and you saw 2 books in the dream? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I had a dream, and right before I woke up, 2 book titles flashed in my mind, just like white letters on a black background, bang, and then I was woken up abruptly. And I knew I had to write those book titles down. And I wrote them down, and like I said, one was the I Ching, a new interpretation for modern times. The other one was Embrace Tiger, Return to Mountain. So I recognized the I Ching title right away. I went down to a bookstore down there, and I picked it up. It was funny because I was down there talking to the lady, or the person, I don't remember if it was a guy or a girl actually, and they were guiding me through the bookstore to where the I Chings were, and obviously there's a whole bunch of versions. And she was saying, well, I like this one, and I like that one. And I said, well, this one came to me in a dream last night. And she just kind of got quiet for a minute and said, okay. And just handed it to me. So I took that. And the other one, Embrace Tiger, Return to Mountain, I didn't know what that was. It didn't make any sense. It just sounded almost like dream gibberish. But then, when I came back to Atlanta from Santa Monica, I started reading the Dancing Wu Li Masters again, and in the preface, or the introduction, it's a book written by one of the people that the author was friends with, who was a Tai Chi master, and that was his book about Tai Chi. So I actually went to the old Phoenix and Dragon, not where it's at now, but where it used to be on Hammond, I think, and picked up a copy of that, and I just started doing Tai Chi.
Did you know anything about Tai Chi prior? I mean, had you even heard of it, or?
I had heard of it. I had been interested in it when I was in Fort Worth, because I was living in Fort Worth before I went to Santa Monica, because I went to school there. And so I was interested in it. I went to the library and got like a video, a VCR tape, back when we had those, and watched a little bit. But at the time, I didn't really do anything with it because I was busy smoking pot and drinking beer and being really messed up and having a lot of fun and being depressed and, all that stuff. But it was like welling up in me. The interest was welling up in me, but I didn't know what to do with it. But when the book title came, I didn't question it. I was like, okay, I will now do this. And so I started doing that. And I studied by myself for the first 8 years. I kind of felt like, okay, the universe is showing me something. I didn't want to go find a teacher because I didn't want to have to sort of deal with their interpretation of whatever was coming through. I wanted to get it straight from source. I wanted the universe to teach me. So I just started doing stuff from the book, and I did that for about 5 years, and then I got another book, and I started doing stuff from that book, and at that point I had a shift, energy shifted. I was living at a little place off of Highway 5 over there, which is now a barbershop, and I was out doing the Tai Chi and applying some of the stuff from this book, and all of a sudden I had like a shift of energy, and I became aware of like the energy inside the trees, and I became aware of all this energy around me, and I just really felt connected with everything. And also in that same time period, I misinterpreted something from the book, and I started doing something that was causing me physical pain. And so at that point, I decided I needed to go find a teacher. So after 8 years, I went and found a teacher, and I studied with Dirga Brau for a little bit down in, he's around Piedmont Park for a little while, and then I started studying with Jeff Cook. I stayed with him for about 5 years, and he's around in this area. He lives up in Big Canoe, and he teaches at Roswell Budokan and a couple other places. And then I hooked up with Master Chen, who was a guy from Wudan Mountain. He was a prodigy, and I started studying the Wudan form, the stuff from Wudan Mountain, which was the original stuff. And I said, well, here I am. Here's the original stuff. This is what I want. So I just started studying and practicing that. And so that's what I've been doing. And now I just pick up a couple more things, and I'm kind of back to sort of listening to the universe again. As a matter of fact, now for the last couple weeks, I've sort of been invoking my divine Tai Chi master to come teach me. And it has really shifted things in a completely new way. I can't even really explain it. There was some stuff that I was learning that didn't feel right. Like you always get taught that the lower Dantian, and Dantian is just Chinese for energy center. I guess it would be the same as chakra. But they have you focus on an area about 2 inches below your navel. And I could never really get anything going there. So I just would always just try not to fixate on it too much and just listen and just flow and learn. And then Drumbelow Melchizedek, I read something that he said, and he said that they had been doing some scientific testing on the body and the energy of the body, and he was like, look, I'm sorry, but we can't find anything 2 inches below the navel. There's nothing there. But the navel itself, is very energetic and very powerful. So I started playing with doing some of the exercises focusing on the navel itself instead of 2 inches below the navel. And there's an amazing difference. It's almost a liberation, a form of liberation. Now, why they would teach you that below there, I know that they would only teach like partial teachings for a while until people were at a certain level of consciousness, because if you could misuse this stuff and create, a lot of harm. So I don't know if that was an intentional lower level teaching to kind of keep people under control for a while until they were at a higher level of consciousness, and then once they were sort of in their heart and realized that whatever they were doing to somebody else they were doing to themselves, then they would become aware of this other center. I don't know why, but I've been kind of being shown that, which is super interesting. And now the Tai Chi is just, I can't even really explain it. I mean, for the last 2 weeks while I'm doing Tai Chi and Qigong, I'm laughing through the entire practice. I mean, it almost feels like I'm being tickled and stuff is just moving, and I'm just like laughing while I'm doing Tai Chi and Qigong, like just laughing. I just start laughing. So I'm liking that.
Absolutely. When you're laughing, do you feel that before these outbursts of laughter, do you feel that you were taking the idea of being spiritual very seriously? Well, I think that there's definitely that for sure, but that's not really what I'm experiencing when I'm laughing. It's really not a conscious idea of anything. It's just really, I'm not conscious of what is being released or why it's being released or what's happening. It's just all of a sudden, everything's just funny. And it almost feels like I'm being tickled. So there's not like a conscious thing there. But yeah, definitely the idea, that has been something that I've gone through, is taking things very seriously and wanting to be a spiritual person and all of that. I think that's one of the big things we all go through, because as soon as you sort of wake up, you want to do good, you want to be a spiritual person, you want to bring in the light, but you're still kind of trapped in duality. So
you're still kind of, I don't know, you're still creating problems because you're polarizing. You try to polarize to one side and then deny the other side. So it's not really a oneness thing or a heart-based thing, because they say that the heart has a very unified energy, where the brain is polarized. So that was definitely something I experienced for a long time. And really, it didn't really shift. I did have some experience in the beginning when the Reiki came in. I was just in love with everybody. I was hugging everybody. It was crazy. It was awesome. But then the mind kind of crept back in, and everything did become really dualistic because I really wanted to, I was like, I didn't even know this stuff was here. I didn't even know there was light, and angels were real, and the Christ and all this stuff. I want to be good. I want to be a spiritual person. I want to help everybody. And when you're still in that dualistic mindset and the brain is still wired for duality, you just become polarized. I mean, that's almost kind of like it almost becomes almost like a cult mentality where it's all got to be this way and it can't be that way. And with what I recognized with the oneness blessing was in the shift of the brain and the flowering of the heart, you actually just really sort of start experiencing things so differently, and you really start to see the divine in everything and everybody. And you stop trying so hard to be like a spiritual person or this or that, and you're just allowed to just sort of be and see the beauty and grace in everybody, no matter what they're doing. Because in duality, no matter what, there's got to be a balance. So even if you're only recognizing the good half, that dark half is in there. Even if you're only recognizing the dark half, that light half is in there. So you just start to recognize that divinity in everybody, and namaste, becomes a real thing. I recognize the divine in you. The divine in me recognizes the divine in you. And when you start moving up and you start awakening, this stuff becomes real, and you go, oh, that's what that means. Oh, I get that now. But yeah, I definitely did experience the whole process of wanting to be spiritual, and it was actually painful,
So, Jeff, for those who don't know, I mean, and most people probably have heard the words Tai Chi, but for those who don't know, quickly, just explain exactly what is Tai Chi, and then after that, what is a oneness blessing?
Okay, so Tai Chi, they call it, I don't know, they call it like the ultimate boxing, I guess. But to me, it's just harmonizing energy. Chi is energy, and Tai, I don't really know exactly what that translates as, but to me it's all about harmonizing energy and becoming very present. In the Tai Chi practice, you focus on your breath and you focus on your movement, and you sort of allow your breath and your movement to become one. You move as you breathe, and you breathe as you move. You move very slowly. You start to listen to your body. You start to listen the way your body's kind of connected. You start to feel these little energetic connections in your body, and you see how they actually discovered the meridians, which science says don't exist. But if you talk to anybody who's had a good acupuncture session, it's real. And you start to feel these things. You start to feel these interconnections, and through the practice, all you're doing really is sort of clearing blocks. You just sort of start to recognize these places of pain, and you just sort of relax into them and breathe into them, and they start to dissipate. And the chi, the energy, the spirit just starts to flow through you. It's almost like if you were ever a kid and you were kind of playing with a hose on a hill and the water was coming down the hill, and you would build like a little dam, and then you would kind of clear the dam out and the water would start flowing down, then you build up another little dam, and then you clear the dam out and the water would just start flowing down the hill. It's kind of like that, you know. We have all these little dams built up in us that we're either aware of or not aware of. And through the practice, we just start clearing these little dams, these little energy blockages, just allowing the chi or the energy or the spirit to just start flowing freely through our body. And, you know, in China, they prescribe Tai Chi as part of their medicine. You know, if you've got bronchitis or whatever you've got, you know, they'll say, okay, take these herbs and go learn Tai Chi, because it just brings the body into balance and harmony, and it really helps with your awareness. It slows down your thinking. It kind of helps you get into that space of watching instead of thinking and trying to make things happen. You sort of watch things happen. You become aware that, you know, you don't have to do as much as you think you have to do to get things done. You know, I mean, the universe is already working to accomplish these things, and all you have to do is really kind of just get in that flow and listen. I don't know, you have to really experience it. You know, sometimes it takes time. You know, I mean, it took me 5 years to really open up and really start feeling it. But I knew that I knew I had to keep going. I mean, when you have an experience like the dream or anything like that, and then you have that internal guidance to keep pulling you in that direction, you just keep going until something happens. But I know that some people feel it immediately. I did some extra work. Movie extra work was for a little show. They actually were looking for a Tai Chi instructor for this little skit thing. And so I went down and I was working with 3 people. There was 2 ladies and a guy, and my job was to pretend like I was teaching a Tai Chi class in this park. And then some people were going to come through and do some other stuff. But while we were waiting for that, I just started showing them some Qigong, some breathing and some moving. And we were doing it for probably about 20 minutes until the people showed up with the cameras and they did their thing, and then they left. And then we just kept going. And after about 20 minutes, the ladies were like, what is going on? My hands are like, I feel this energy in my hands. All this is happening. I said, yeah, this is real. You know, just breathing and moving, you know, you open stuff up, and, you know, they were amazed. Now, the guy had been smoking cigarettes before we started. He didn't feel anything. And I think that was just because, you know, all he could feel was the nicotine in his system, because the energy is very subtle, you know. I know that when I was still smoking and drinking and doing Tai Chi, I knew that my practice was suffering every time I would go out and party. But I could find my way back into the energy. So it was this constant self-defeating struggle. You know, I finally let that go, but it was interesting, just that subtle little bit. And even like caffeine would have the same effect because it's a stimulant. So you're feeling in your central nervous system, your brain, you're feeling that energy instead of that really subtle energy that starts to awaken and becomes less and less subtle. And so through the Tai Chi practice, you really just learn to relax and sort of let things happen. You know, I'm going to paraphrase, but in the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu said something to the effect of, you know, I do nothing and yet everything is accomplished. You know, and he talks about non-doing. And it's that space of sort of allowing the universe to accomplish everything. You know, once you start to get in that space, you start to feel everything working, and you don't have to fight so much. You don't have to struggle so hard to get things done. You can feel, you kind of just set your intention, and things just sort of start to happen. It's almost magical. So I guess that's my take on Tai Chi. You know, it's very experiential. I'm teaching a couple classes up at the Herb Shop and a place called Momentum Holistics, and the people who are coming there, they really like it, and they feel it. Some people feel it, some people don't. But the people who are more relaxed, and definitely if you've been doing work, energy work, healing work, you're going to feel it immediately because you're already feeling it. So that's my take on Tai Chi. That, and also you're connecting with the earth and with the sky. You're feeling that feminine energy come up through your body and the masculine energy come down from the sky. So everybody's familiar with that yin-yang symbol, the black and white kind of swirling around each other.
Wow.
So you start to feel that balance, in yourself and around yourself. It's just a beautiful exercise and a way to keep yourself healthy, really, is all it does. I mean, it brings you back into a place of good health, and it just kind of keeps you there, because as we walk through the day, we're constantly picking stuff up. We're constantly becoming angry about this or judgmental about that. You can't help it. I mean, you're still in the mind. And so when you start doing this, it's another way to just start clearing these things out, but not so much of a mental process as it is seeing. You just start to see these things and feel these things inside yourself, and then just through the breathing and moving, you just start clearing them out and allowing them to clear in a way that is not engaging the dualistic mind so much as it is just your own presence, that I am presence. So that's my take on Tai Chi. And the Oneness blessing. The Oneness blessing is a divine transmission of energy to bring about awakening and God realization. There are a number of Dikshas right now. It starts out when you go to the Oneness Awakening course, you learn how to do hands-on Diksha, which is you place your hands gently on top or a little bit over somebody's head while facing them for about 30 seconds. And it's the divine doing all the work. It's the person's divine. It's not, you're not standing there going, okay, now this is so-and-so doing this, or it comes from this dogma. There's no dogma. There's no anything. It's just purely divine love, really. And, part of the teaching is that this is a personal thing. So whatever your relationship is with God or with the divine, that's what you stay with. You don't change. If you're Catholic, you just take that deeper. If you're Buddhist, you take that deeper. Even if you're an atheist, there's something inside you that you're aware of, because if there wasn't, you wouldn't have polarized to atheism in the first place. So you're an atheist because nobody's telling you the right thing and you know that they're wrong. So atheists are really very spiritual people.
Yeah.
I know, because I was an atheist, for a long time. And because there's something in there that's just so strong that you're willing to stand there and say there's nothing, and you're all wrong.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah, so, I met him.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter, because it's that personal relationship with what you already have inside you, what you already know, what's already in there, in your heart. It's just you start deepening that relationship with that, whatever that is. And if you do have a teacher, like Jesus or Buddha or Srila Bhagwan, then you can start relating to them and talking to them and asking them to guide you and help you. And it's freaking real. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, you tell things like this to people who have not had an experience and who are still in a very dense level of consciousness, and they're going to think you're nuts. Yeah. But when you start having the experiences, you're like, wow, life is just a lot cooler than I thought it was. But anyway, so the Oneness blessings, There's a golden orb meditation. There's prana diksha, but a lot of the stuff you get when you go to India. They have Oneness universities in Chennai in India, and it's now merging with One World Academy, which is started by Sri Amma Bhagwan's son, Krishnaji, and his wife, Preetaji. And they're more focused on sort of expanding consciousness. It's for people who don't really have so much of a spiritual attitude, if you will, people who are still very focused on the world and the material world, but they want to expand their consciousness, but they don't feel comfortable with, avatars and ascended masters and things like that. So it's just another way to have them expand their consciousness. So these two things are now joined together. And there's a meditation on YouTube called the Soul Sync meditation that anybody can do. And it's amazing because that expanded consciousness is like they're with you when you're doing the meditation. You just start doing the meditation, you can feel your divine support with you, in you and around you. Like you just don't feel like you're sitting alone in a room doing something. You feel like all of a sudden, you are being supported and loved and helped, even through this meditation. So all the oneness stuff, it just keeps shifting the brain. It just keeps clearing stuff away. You start seeing how much of the stuff you were relating to and the personality and the self was just sort of created by the mind, and is kind of holding you in this pattern. It's hard to explain, you have to kind of have this experience of it. I mean, back in 2013, I had a really big shift, and I was working in a lab/warehouse at the time, and I remember I went into work, and I started put on the radio, and I was playing music, and all of a sudden, it was like the music, I couldn't feel the music. The music was just like puddles of water on the floor. I mean, I couldn't feel it, and I realized at that point that the whole reason I was playing this music was to make me feel good, was to stimulate my emotional body and to make me feel good. And all of a sudden, those little charges and those little things that needed that were gone. And so, like, it didn't work anymore. And there was just this absence of this stuff. And, for a while I was kind of walking around like, wow, who am I and where am I and what's going on? And, eventually you sort of, it's almost like you rebuild a little bit. You sort of rebuild the way you relate to the world and you relate to everything, because that's another thing they talk about is, relationships. Everything is relationship. Without relationships, we don't exist. The way you relate to your friends, the way you relate to your families, you relate to the earth, you relate to the sky. It's all these relationships. You don't, I guess it's another way of kind of seeing how everything's connected, because without one, there isn't the other. I don't know. You just sort of start seeing things in a different way. Like I read something the other day from Bhagwan that says, once you awaken, then you start applying the teachings. Like one of the teachings is stay with the what is. Because the mind is always dragging us all over the place and worrying about what we got to do in 3 weeks and what did I do yesterday and where did I put this, and then there's this sense of just being. But until your consciousness is shifted and you've awakened to a certain point, you don't even know what the what is. But once you have experienced it, then you start applying the teachings of kind of staying with the what is. You can kind of feel this presence. And when you're in this presence, you feel all this energy from the universe just transforming you. The longer you just stay in it, it's almost like just being in the sun, and you're just kind of getting warmed up. And then if you kind of jog off into the mind and start worrying about, whatever, I think maybe I want to go get a Frappuccino and maybe some pizza, and then I got to call my brother, and I got to do this, and then you realize that you're kind of off on a tangent, so you kind of go back to the just being again, and you just kind of go through this process. And I guess eventually you're able to stay with the what is completely. I guess that's when you would be fully awakened. I'll let you know if and when I get there. But I'm definitely in process now. I mean, I definitely relate to things much differently than I used to. I remember my daughter used to come in, and once she became a teenager, all of a sudden there was this almost like a pain when I was around her, It was just an agitation. And no matter what she said or no matter what I said, we just agitated each other. We just rubbed each other the wrong way. And there was it didn't make sense, but it was there. I could feel it. And this was there for years. And then I realized, this was probably about a year ago, when she came home, and I was like, all right. I just kind of leaned into the energy, and I was waiting for the irritation to be there again and kind of do my best and not let it take me over. And it was just gone. It just wasn't there anymore. And I didn't do anything, except a whole bunch of Diksha. And that's the kind of stuff that gets kind of cleared out. It's a lot of subconscious stuff and a lot of emotional stuff that we hold with people. Like if you have an experience with somebody or something and it makes you angry or it hurts you, that just kind of sits there. It kind of sits in your field until you fully experience it, or until you've completely learned everything you can from it, and then it continues to flow. But it's that constriction and that resistance and that pain just holds it in place, and the Diksha kind of just comes in. It's like the divine hand kind of comes in and helps you and kind of clears that out of the way when you just couldn't do it on your own. It's kind of like Bhagavan says, a drowning man can't pull himself up out of the river. Somebody's got to reach him with their hand and pull him up. And that's kind of the awakening process. You can't gift yourself with awakening or enlightenment, but it can be given to you. And, you start to see how much is given to us all the time. Yeah. I don't know. I could just keep rambling, but I think I'll pause.
No, that's good. I'm enjoying it.
No, we love it. We love the stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So,
what about,
Rod, give me another question.
Well, I wanted to ask this. You said that you did the Tai Chi on your own for like 8 years before, and then after 8 years you decided to go find a teacher?
Yeah.
Okay, so after 8 years and then finding a teacher, what was that like? Like, 8 years on your own is a long time. So when you found a teacher and started training, were you like, wow, I've been doing this all wrong? Or was anything new that you learned that you were like, wow, I should have did this a long time ago? Or was the timing of it was just right? Or
a little bit of all of that, I was definitely had learned a lot and been shown a lot, and I was actually very aware and feeling, and I did have that sort of awakening moment when the energy shifted and I felt my energy differently and I could feel the energy around me differently. So when I went to a teacher, I was just kind of adding on to that. It's almost like you have all of this energy, but it has no structure. It has no form. And then so when I went to the teacher, I was able to kind of give it some form and say, okay, I can apply it this way. I can kind of use it to do this, and I can use it to do that. It's kind of like if you have this feeling in you, this music sort of playing in you constantly, but you never write it down and turn it into a song, it just kind of sits in that unmanifested zone of consciousness. And when you bring it into form, you actually put it to use, and you can share it with people, and you can do things with it. in the world, and it's almost that kind of energy. So it was cool because I would love learning stuff, and I heard his stories, and he would tell me stories about stuff that he learned, and it makes it real. But I was also able to apply all the stuff that I had learned intuitively to everything that he was showing me from the other side. So it was almost a form of Tai Chi in itself, because here I had the one thing that I got from the intuitive section, and then he was giving me stuff from a sort of mental learned area, and it created even a more sense of balance. So there's almost that Tai Chi symbol right there again. I started learning from the universe, and then I started learning from a person, which was from the mind or from the manifest. So it was almost just a completion and a greater balance. I kind of needed that. Otherwise, I don't know. In this world, this is a physical world. It's a world of duality and manifestation. So it's kind of like one of the guys at Oneness University. There were a couple guys that were in such high states of consciousness that they couldn't relate to people. They couldn't even talk to people. And Shrama Bhagwan told them, look, I need you to come back. I need you to be more dense so you can help me teach. And one guy who's now one of the teachers that does meditations with us on Sunday and works with the people from America, for the first year or so, all he could do was like walk around, and he would hold a picture of Shrama Bhagwan and just laugh. I mean, that's all he did for like a year. He couldn't even really talk to anybody. And he finally came down into form and a more density and can actually now apply these things and help people. So it was kind of that sort of energy almost, where it gave it form. It kind of gave more form to the stuff I had learned. And so I didn't like throw away the things I had already learned, because it had kind of become who I was in a way, because I sort of discovered this energy and discovered this connection, but I didn't know what to do with it. And so the form, although I started learning with the teachers, you start to get more forms. You start to learn how to do different things with it. Different forms of Qigong, different Tai Chi forms, because there's all different kinds of Tai Chi forms. And I guess this sort of just kind of wires your brain to kind of start showing you how you can actually apply this in the world. Because then you just start playing with it on a different level. It's like, it's just learning. It's just learning. You're just constantly learning more stuff and seeing things from new perceptions, new perspectives, and new angles. And it makes it even more colorful. It's just more colors. But it's the same stuff, but it's just more. So, yeah.
How often do you yourself personally practice Tai Chi?
I try to do it every day now. Sometimes I can't. Like if I have to get up really early in the morning and go help, I help a guy do some solar-powered hot water installations. And so if I got to get up early and go out to Jasper or something in the morning, or if I just don't have the time, I may skip a day. But for the most part, I do it every day.
Every day?
When I first started, it was maybe 3 days a week. I was trying to do my best to do 3 days a week, because it was a struggle, I was lazy, and my mind had convinced me that, the mind tells you a whole bunch of stuff. I don't feel like it. I don't really need to do that. But there was something else in me pulling me to do it. So when I first started, it was probably about 3 days a week, and now I do it pretty much every day.
For how long?
About an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, because I go through some. Well, it is and it isn't, because it's such a gift. It's like, it's such a wonderful thing at this point that it's like food. You just get so fed from it, and it makes you feel so good that it's not work. You know,
Yeah.
It's not like going to the gym and lifting weights. But even that gives you that endorphin rush. I mean, people get addicted to that too, you know. But it's just so awesome. You just feel so good afterwards. Sometimes you gotta make myself do it though. You know, it just all depends what's going on in my world and with my energy and where I'm at. Because you know, sometimes my energy's low and sometimes it's high. But I try to do it, you know, on a regular basis every day, and it just makes such a difference. Any form of, you guys know, I mean, any type of sadhana or daily meditation or any kind of practice like that, it kind of starts rewiring you and putting you in a space where you can sort of connect with that creative intelligence of life and the universe. Just changes your whole day.
Yeah.
If you do that every day in the morning, your whole day is completely different than if you just wake up and rush to get in the shower and rush to brush your teeth and slam 3 cups of coffee and then rush to get into traffic and rush through your day. You feel sick and you're exhausted. But if you take a little time every day to do anything, it doesn't matter if you sit and watch your breath for 5 minutes a day and just feel your breath moving in and out of your body, it changes everything.
Yeah. Sets the energy for the day.
For sure.
Yeah. I agree.
We always like to share a lot of books, and you shared books with us from time to time, Jeff. And I don't know if you're familiar with Jane Roberts and Seth's book. Are you familiar with them at all?
Say it again.
Are you familiar with the Jane Roberts Seth series?
No.
Okay. So I have a book recommendation. So it's called The Individual and the Nature of Mass Events. And it was written, I want to say, in the late 70s. It talks about how we're all connected and how we could all be connected for these mass events. So if you could think about the late 70s, they cover Jonestown, where people did that mass suicide. They did the nuclear attack or nuclear, what was that, in New York, where they had that nuclear fallout in the late 70s. And it applies today.
3 Mile Island.
3 Mile Island, thank you. And it kind of resonates with, just what's happening globally today as it relates to your oneness blessing or your oneness teaching. And as you were talking all along, it just kept reminding me of the synchronicity. And the reason why I'm bringing up the book is it gives up a really good example that I like. So it talks about television, right? And we like TV, or I like TV. So it says, okay, I want to watch this television show for these reasons, and I enjoy it. And then, so that's one frame. And then the second frame is actually the program director that gets all the actors together, the advertisers and all this. This is all happening behind the scenes that I could really care less about, right? Because I just want the new show. And so Seth was talking about how the disconnect that most people have is they're just used to that one frame of watching a TV show and just reacting to things that happen, not being in touch with what's happening in frame 2 of everything that's happening behind the scenes. And so you were highlighting in so many respects that sentiment of that oneness that many people are missing out on just because they're not aware or exposed to working with the unseen that has so much influence on our lives that we don't even know that, they're trying too hard, like you said, if we're being spiritual or I'm being too spiritual or I'm trying too hard. I think you'll like the book. I think it resonates with a lot that you covered in this call.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. And we are now.
Are we out of time?
We are now at that top of the hour. So that actually, yeah, it flies, man. It flies when you're having fun. Jeff, how could people get in touch with you to do the oneness blessing with you or to go to any of your Tai Chi events? And you mentioned an event coming up in November. If you'd like to highlight that as well, that'd be great.
Yeah, you can go to GeorgiaOneness.com, which is the website for the Georgia Oneness community here in Atlanta. And they've got a calendar of events on there, and there's lots of different places you can go get Diksha during the week. And we'll be up at the Unity North Holistic Fair on October, I think it's 28th and 29th. I'll be there all day, and whoever else shows up to give, we'll be giving Diksha all day there. November, the first week in November, I think it's the 4th and 5th, there's going to be a Oneness Awakening course, which is that 2-day course I talked about, where you're just clearing a lot of stuff, working on relationships. Your divines, they're with you, walking you through the whole weekend. And then at the end, you get the Mukti Diksha, and you can, then give the hands-on Diksha. And all that information should be on the GeorgiaOneness.com site. If you want to get a hold of me, I guess you could just shoot me an email at jwj144@gmail.com. I don't really have a website or anything. And let's see, the classes at the Herb Shop up in Holly Springs. You could get a hold of the Herb Shop at, I think it's herbshopcanton. I don't know if it's com or org. I think it's com. And then momentumholistics.com would be the other place I'm teaching at up in Holly Springs. So those are all my dots.
All your dots, connecting the dots. Awesome. We definitely appreciated this last hour learning more about Tai Chi and the origins of oneness and the oneness blessings. Very great information. And definitely reach out to Jeff for those that are interested in getting more information about that for the upcoming classes and events, and just to stay abreast of everything related to Tai Chi, oneness blessing, and additional information for that. So with that, this is Intrinsic Motivation from a Homie's Perspective. This is Hamza.
And I'm David.
And we look forward to catching you guys on the next podcast. Thanks so much, Jeff.
Hey, thanks, guys. It was fun.
Great. Have a great day.
You too. See you later, guys.